Oh, it's that short. All right. Well then, Dragon Quest XI defeated. Um, a little bit sooner than I was expecting, but you know what? This is, to my recollection, this is the first Dragon Quest game I've ever beaten. I've played a couple of them, so I'm really happy with how this played out. Yeah, boost the volume here a little bit. I'll just go ahead and get into it. I like this game. I like it a lot. And one of the biggest things that I enjoy most about it is how to the core it is with the JRPG genre. It doesn't deviate from that formula, and that does come at a fault. It can be detrimental when you have very specific, I want to call them like very specific things that you do in this genre that kind of make it what it is. And sometimes they improve on them, sometimes they just leave them alone, and it kind of hurts the game. But as a whole, this game is pretty fantastic, and I like it a lot. The story is actually pretty enjoyable for me. It's one of the more enjoyable stories I've played this year in regards to JRPGs. Essentially, we're the reincarnated luminary, and we learn of that, and then we go on a quest to basically not die. And then we go on a quest to get the ultimate power to defeat Mordragon to stop the Lord of Shadows. And there's a lot of nice little twists and turns, or at least specifically one twist and turn where we actually go to Yggdrasil, and for all intents and purposes, that was like at 30 hours in the game or so. And it kind of gives you the fake out, because you would think that would be the final place to do battle. And it turns out, hey, this is just the turning point. Now you have to go to the dark world, or the world bathed in shadow, and you have to deal with, I guess, the consequences of being a scrub. And then finally, during that moment, you also lose the Sword of Light, and so you have to figure out a way to get that, not only the power of the Luminary back, but that sword back as well. So it's really nice. This game actually makes for a really good Dungeons and Dragons campaign. I wouldn't be surprised if I picked some things that I liked from this and used it for my own good. Was it satisfying? It was satisfying. I think there were several moments where the JRPG-ness kind of got in the way, where we were helping people that really had no business being helped, and it was kind of getting in the way of the urgency of the quest. But JRPG. Does it feel complete? It does feel complete. I was expecting a 60 to 80 hour game, so I am shocked that the length is shorter than that, but at the same time I am appreciative. Playing a JRPG for that long, looking at you Persona 5, can get quite taxing. The pacing was good. It feels complete. I do like it. Some of the gameplay mechanics and design, some stuff that stands out to me. A lot of these are little things. Some of them are big things. You can pick up items on the horse. I mentioned this when I first discovered this. A lot of games wouldn't let you get away with this, and I really, really like the attention to detail in this matter, because some games, they'll have you get off the horse just so you can pick up a sparkly on the ground. The only downside is you cannot attack enemies on the horse. I think that's an oversight that should be there, and so I hope they add it. Full experience for backup party members. This is super important. If they didn't do this, it would be a cardinal sin. I think it's really important for games to do this, and I just can't applaud the developers that choose to go this route enough. I love the decision. It becomes specifically important when you actually have to use backup party members when your main party dies. And oh, Digital Hearts is on there. Oh snaps, let's go Digital Hearts. And at the same time, it allows you to experiment. So if it wasn't the case, when I got my first 4 party members, they might have been locked in forever just because they were so far ahead in experience, and the little board, ability board or whatever. Super important that they allow for that experimentation to swap people in and out. I might have never used Jade, and I really like Jade. Or Rab. Rab is so good. Practical dungeon design isn't an issue. This actually was an issue for the last dungeon, but I give it a pass because it's the last dungeon, and you know, all those guys could probably fly, so you know, who cares. But I really like games where they build a dungeon and it actually feels like a place that people would go and make a hideout in, and it doesn't do like these weird things that don't make any sense for that particular place. Like, for example, if we were in a floating city or something like that, and there was no like stairs, but none of the people had any magical abilities or wings, it's like, well, how do they get from one place to the other? You know, come on. So I'm glad that this game treats its dungeons as, well, have practical designs to them for what they're used for. The game is very much Dragon Quest. If you don't like any game prior in the series, you won't like this one. And I think that is 100% true. This game does not change the Dragon Quest formula. It is very much the same. It will just like, if you don't like anything from a previous Dragon Quest, it's going to be in this game. For example, the churches or those little altar things being the save points, that's just a Dragon Quest thing. More so the churches. I think the altar things are a new-ish addition. So it's a double-edged sword, I guess. If you like it, great. If you don't, sorry. The combat, I don't have too many grievances about the combat. The free moving in combat is kind of weird. Like, really, really weird. Are those the seeds? I don't know why it's a thing either. Oh, these guys. These guys. Was that the mirror? I think that's the mirror. Who was holding on to that, though? Let's see. Tatsunaga was the hardest and most frustrating boss. Holy freaking cow, man. That boss was ridiculous. I never want to fight that boss again, and I think I mentioned it in the actual during the actual time I was playing it. All right, so full play time is 48:26, just shy of 50 hours. There were no annoying dungeons, nothing that I got that were inflated by like backtracking or anything like that, so that was really nice. There were some cardinal sins, some things that this game does that just really pick at me, and I'll get to this in a second. Oh well, I guess it's just gonna go. Well, you guys can read that. They were forcing me to fight without a party member. Oh, to be continued. Okay. forcing me to fight without a full party. There were a couple instances in here where they would remove my party members and I'd have to fight with either myself or one other person or two other people. And those type of things are not good, especially when you put so much work and effort into that character and they just get removed, and everything about your composition suffers for it. Thankfully, it was very rare that those occurrences happened, and they were at the beginning of the game rather than the end of the game. But you know, it's still a problem. And then removing a party member and then requiring difficult fights. This was specifically at that port town where we had to fight Jasper for the first time, and they removed Eric from my party, who was very integral to my party. And so I was forced to use Sylvando, and it made the fight a lot more difficult than it really needed to be. So I wasn't a fan of that. Moving on to the miscellaneous, the music actually wasn't all too memorable for me. I don't know if it's just because it was in the background and so I just didn't notice it very much, or if it just wasn't that great of a music, or maybe it was just doing its job and you know I didn't notice it, and that's what it was for. I will have to say that the opening theme is really nice. It's a typical Dragon Quest, but it's still really nice. The voice acting, the main story is fully voice acted. I love it. I wish every JRPG would do at minimum that. I would love for the full game to be voice acted, but as long as the main story is voice acted, that just makes me so happy. And the voice acting was actually really well done. The only character that was questionable was Sylvando, and that was only because he was a weirdo. So, mad props to the voice actors for this game. You guys did a great job. The graphics. Oh, the cinematic graphics are so good. The in-game graphics are so good. The art style is so good. The texture work is so good. This game does a really good job with its visuals. And I gotta give the props to them. The visual effects artists, the textures, even the environment designers, 3D modelers, like they did a really good job of this game. Replay value, I don't think there's any replay value in this game. I don't think so. Oh, I'm gonna get to this in a second as well. Let's see. My favorite characters, definitely Rab. Sylvando was a weirdo. I liked Veronica. She was sassy. That's about it. I didn't like Serena. I don't like the main character because he was a silent protagonist. I will go ahead and get this. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, that's that. Some of the things that I disliked. Gotta get that out of the way as well. You move slower in buildings for some reason. This kind of reminds me of World of Warcraft, where you can't mount in buildings and cities and things like that. And it's just a really big annoyance. You know, it's like if I want to walk slow, I won't run. You know, I don't get it. It felt like something that just added time because it has no real purpose. Also, you're unable to save anywhere, and the autosave is not too useful. The autosave, from what I can tell, when you enter a new zone, like a brand new zone, not like an area of that zone, but like if I'm entering the Lost Woods, you know, the very beginning, the first time I enter it, it autosaves. And that's not very useful if I die, you know? Obviously you could say, hey, well, just don't die. Well, get good is a lot harder to do than you would think. And unable to save anywhere. I think this is just a modern thing that all games should be doing. And it's one of those things that this game is so Dragon Quest and so attached to its old self that it just hasn't fully modernized to some of the things that we expect. And I might even go as far to say that is necessary for JRPGs and RPGs in general to flourish in today's market. Slow animations with no way to skip. For example, leveling up, spells, HP recovery. Some of these things, they just add more time to it, and they have their purpose. It's displaying information that you need, but there's cleaner ways to do it, and it doesn't have to take up time to do it. For example, if you have HP recovery on somebody that's not right as rain, but like an accessory, before it's that person's turn, it will pan the camera to that person, show the amount that they recover, and then it'll give you their turn. And I think it's just a cleaner method to plop to their turn, and as you're doing your action, you get the HP recovery above their head or what have you. It's just an efficiency thing. And then the last thing that I don't like, and I really wish I could make this a cardinal sin, and maybe one day I will convince myself that this is such an egregious thing that it really does just need to die in all JRPGs and RPGs and just games in general, is the silent protagonist. I get the argument that you will be more immersed and you will feel more like the character that you're playing if they have no voice, because you kind of feel transposed in their position. You speak for them. That doesn't work for me though, and I don't really feel that sense of immersion in those characters. I feel more immersed in a game where the main character is talking and they're interacting and I just get to make the choices for them. I feel more like that character than I would if they just didn't say anything. I didn't feel attached to the main character of this game at all. He just made grunting noises. And so I really, really hope that the silent protagonist just dies. Even Link is starting to talk. If Link is gonna start talking and Zelda's gonna start talking, then we need to upgrade. You know what I'm saying? And if the developer is watching, I don't have any points written down for this, so I'm gonna go off the dome. I'm just gonna say this is a fantastic game. I look forward to Dragon Quest XII. Hopefully it's not an MMO. Hopefully it's not a mobile game. Hopefully it's not a handheld game. I want a nice solid console game. You could port it to the handheld. I mean, it could be all of those things at the same time. I don't care. I want a console game to sink my teeth into. And I honestly want to say that I think you have a great formula here, and you have a great franchise that is built on just following tradition. I do think, though, if you're going to move forward with Dragon Quest, I think it would help out a lot to modernize a lot of the systems. Many of them are just really archaic, and really the most important things about this game are the turn-based battles, the spells, the characters, the monsters, and the story, you could modernize everything else to just be in line with other games and make it as efficient as other games. Other than that, I really like what you guys did with this game. It's pretty nice. Pretty nice. And I think that's going to wrap up my thoughts on Dragon Quest XI.